I was trying to develop concepts. I was trying to conceptualize that in Singapore. When I was in Singapore, vehicles that would be able to run heat or cooling without the need to run the fossil fuel, the fossil fuel needed for kinetic motion. So you need the fossil fuel in there for kinetic movement. Yeah, actually, it's an oxymoron because I'm double. I'm basically saying the same thing when I say kinetic. Kinetic means motion. I'm done repeating myself, but for kinetic application, movement, aka movement. You have to have the fossil fuel. You have to have the fossil fuel, which is aka petroleum gasoline. But to generate heat, you also need to run the engine, and the engine depletes the fossil fuel that you need. And sometimes a lot of our wealthier Anglo-Celtic, Euro-ancestry Americans, other people were able to go mountain climbing or off-road trips and things like that, hiking. You know, it's not hiking. Excuse me, because any of those activities, see, that's how tired I am. None of those activities involve using a vehicle. But you know, off-road trips, camping, all that. You know, mountaineering and all that kind of stuff. They want to go do that, really outdoor stuff, and they get caught out in the wilderness with the vehicle. And the wilderness gets cold at night. On the day, sometimes the temperature extremes are more so than being in the industrialized, populated city areas, because being in the city areas generates its own microclimate sometimes. So being out there, they're exposed and they need heat, especially women and children, family structure, whatever, and even the individual. And if you have to run the fuel that you need to ride around to find an exit from the wilderness, you basically will become stranded because you don't have enough fuel to engage or as a catalyst for motion to get your way towards getting out of there. You don't have enough fuel because you run it up using what? When you're lost, you run it up using it for heat. Or the scenario the vehicle breaks down and it is disabled kinetically. It cannot move, but it still has fuel inside. So you use that vehicle as a stranded bus, or whatever, as a movie scenario, as in fictional cinema scenario. You use the vehicle fuel, the engine running to generate heat for the school bus or whatever until it runs out, and then you're lost in the middle of nowhere, waiting for rescue. And you need to run the engine for heat. And if there is a possibility of a stove or cooking, being there may be a microwave or oven or something, food stuff stored or things you may be able to cook while you are guys are camping. That's a de facto makeshift home. You need to run the engine with fuel in it where you have no access to petroleum stations, places to go gas because you're lost in the middle of the isolated wilderness. You need that vehicle for electrical, to run the engine for electrical power generation. What? The power of the cooking device. So you need a vehicle that has alternative, off-grid, non-petroleum use available that you can generate on alone, even if it's just a wind-up crank or something you can hook up to a bike, something where you could do a bicycle or treadmill or something, or like I said, the wind-up crank scenario or a combination of solar and something else to harvest energy use. So you don't have to depend on fuel and something with like tungsten or some other type of filaments that can continue to generate heat so that people could keep warm, you know, so that our bodies could be maintained while they're stuck in the wilderness or at sea. Instead of depending on fuel to generate it, especially it becomes more perilous at sea. Sea environment is even more perilous. That's definitely outside of human function. The world of the sea, of the ocean. It's really not our territory. We have been allowed to create craft to traverse it, to pass through it safely, to pass over it, but the sea is generally hostile territory for man. Very hostile. We are not adapted and suited to survive in the sea or even about, or on the sea without any help. Really not. Very difficult environment. The sea. Very difficult. Only a mariner, a real mariner, either submariner or above surface, understands the perils and the seriousness of the sea. Very serious place. I'm fortunate I didn't get to use my merchant mariner's card with all the bad stuff hanging over my head. Yeah, fortunate. Who knows what would have happened to me out there? Very lucky. And with the crash of the helicopter, as you heard about the tragedy of our brethren who died in Scotland, there were law enforcement people who passed away in Scotland with the EC-135 P series or T series helicopter, which the 135 is known to be a little bit quirky. Like I said, I wouldn't buy one for my own personal use. I observed Mr. Rockefeller himself, despite having Sikorsky money, David Rockefeller, for a long time with the company Wayfarer Catch, he was loyal to the MBB 105. The MBB BO, Bull Cow 105. That was his favorite helicopter. That helicopter is very, very rigid, very stable. But I want one for myself, personally. I want one for myself. Very stable machine. Agile and stable, solid. Another one is the McDonnell Douglas MD 500 series, the 500E, the 530FF. Very stable, agile machine. Very solid, dependable machine. I don't know why people don't buy more of them, especially the McDonnell Douglas 500 series. I don't know why. Very solid machine. Very, very, very solid. Very beautiful machine. So, EC-135. The only thing I want from Eurocopter is the Gazelle series, and the Twin Dolphin, which is the latest of the 365 family, and the EC-155, and the twin engine variant of the 355, the F or the N series. That's all I would want. The EC-135, you can forget that. Keep that. That EC-120 also. No, not big on those. Or the EC-130. I forget which one is less stable. I don't know if it's the 120 or the 130. They also have a little bit of series of problems. So anyhow, this is my situation. Homeless man sitting in the car talking about aspirations of owning a helicopter and knocked down by governments to be sure that I don't accrue too much wealth too quickly. Fascinating. Fascinating, demoralizing, yet interesting, uplifting at the same time.